All right. Welcome, everyone, to Intelligent Voices Israelites. I am your brother, your friend, Yazrael Yashambaya. This is my wife, Yazrael Yamaikaya.
Shalom.
Shalom, everyone. We're just getting started here, so we're running probably like 5 minutes behind, but bear with us. I hope many of you are doing well today. May you continue in the grace that has been given to us by Yeshua, because he loves each and one of us and give us the wisdom, the knowledge, and the understanding.
Amen.
And amen.
Amen.
All right, so make sure everyone gets their paper, physical or digital dictionary for either keywords, because you never know, we might need to use keywords to amplify our studies here on IVI. Today in this segment, we will be talking about who is Philistia. I think that is right. Is that right? We're talking about who is Philistia. Still get my other notes here. Here we go. All right, let's see. You got your stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
Right there, yes. That. So who is Philistia? And many times we hear what the Philistines, and many of these different names mentioned many times, like we see with the war that's going on now between the Philistines and Gaza, Damascus, which we've done talked about here in this study, about these wars that would come in alignment with this 7-day tribulation, which gets us to the middle parts, as we are seeing, getting caught up like soda to the foam, so to speak. And it's allowing you to see now, while we're having this subject of who is Philistia, it's going to give us a past, a present, and also let us see what will happen to the future Philistia, or Philistines, as they're called. Because a lot of people get Palestine and Philistine kind of mixed up together, and they might say it differently,
Right. That's true, yeah.
Right? So we're going to try to bring some clarity today, everyone, on this subject. Once I get my notes here, because I had some notes here that I wanted to bring up. I'm always writing and jotting down things in different various places, because when Father speaks, you better have your pen and paper ready, because you want to listen well. So let's see here. So I hope everyone had a very, very great weekend, and having one starting this Friday. This is Friday, right? Going into our Sabbath, which is Saturday, meaning to what? Explain to them what Saturday you should be doing with Saturday.
Enjoying your family.
And the knots.
And not outside going shopping and doing things you should not do.
Right. So complete rest.
Complete rest. So, with your family.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
Yes. So everyone, I hope everyone, brothers and sisters now, have gotten paper and pen, and make sure you have drinking things that you need, because it might be like an hour and a half. Again, my name is Yazrael Yashambaya. This is my wife, Israel Yamaikaya. Slide this over just a little bit. All right. So we're gonna get into this study here, and But before we start, we always like to start with a prayer, everybody. Today, I'm going to let my wife give prayer for us all. Before we start today, who is Philistia? Okay. All right, let's go into prayer.
Okay. I like to say in prayer, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For Yahweh is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. Praise my Father and praise Yahweh in us. And thankful for that prayer from my wife, Yashrael Yamaikaya. Everyone, shalom, shalom. So we were going to be going into some logic reading first. And because now we seeing that wars are popping up everywhere, right, everyone? And we see that Israel is in the middle of this thing. We see Moab, we see Ammonites, we see Philistines, we see Assyrians, we see Lebanon, we see many, many nations actually starting to form a correlation, so to speak. But today what we'll be talking about, who is Philistia, will give us an outline of how we got to the point we are in the world today. We're coming to the end of a generation of time through an offspring who are therefore come from slave ancestors from their mothers. And now we're here in the new America, which in the new world they've been called the Americas. And here it is, we are the offspring and now coming back to the awareness of Yah. Allowing Yah to therefore show us who have been our enemies and who have been the ones that have been persecuting our people of ancient ancestors, to allow us to see why we are going through such a mental and physical, sometimes in a way physical, but more of a mental state of mind today through the coalitions of this mixed tribe and mixed nations and so on, so-called this, so-called that. But let's look at why we must pay attention to Philistia. All right, so I'm going to go into some logic reading because I got some notes here that before I go into that. I might be reading out my big book today. Water here. One second. Started just a little late, but it's good. All right. Thank you, Father. So get your notebooks and pen because you probably can take note of this, everyone, because I'm going to be reading out of this big scroll book. I don't think I need these anymore. So it's on something else.
So
yeah, I can put that over there.
Okay.
I'll put that one over there too. Okay, I'll leave that one either. All right. So now many of you probably heard of Philistia or Philistines. Who are these people? Why are they important for Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu? Why this coalition of peace accord of Abraham Accord? And now we're seeing that they're talking about peace. Want to bring peace to the Middle East or Far East, however you might want to call it, as we see Saudi Arabia and Saudis have gotten very close with Trump. His father's basically giving them a plane. I think it was how much it was, 400 something million. They're like 400 something $1 million plane, which, you got to wonder, here it is, the country is in dire need of many services, and you taking $400 million planes instead of $400 million to put in the bank to give to the people of your country if there's so much hurting. So now here it is, who is Philistia? Now everybody always bring, the Caucasians right away, but here it is, there's many other Philistines that now have become a mixed race down the generations of time. Why? Because here it is, we knew Noah had 3 sons. Mm-hmm. And the 3 sons, here it is, went into the land and started a table of nations. We got Abraham, right? Abraham became, now here it is, the father of the leader of nations. Mm-hmm. Brought us Isaac, right? Mm-hmm. Then here it is, we seen out of Isaac also, but before Isaac came, who? Ishmael out of Hagar. So now we see we got all of this down the lineage of generations of time of our ancestors, not just talking about the so-called black people or here it is the so-called Caucasians only. Here it is, but we got to look at it. Here it is. We had an albino race. Mm-hmm. All right, everyone? We had an albino race. So here it is. This is why I'm going to let you know this is not about a discrimination of color, but this is also about one understanding the fact that one had oppression, and here it is, oppression, because here it is, one had a curse and one didn't even have a curse because they was either a Gentile or a heathen nation, right? Because we look at the Roman situation. So now why I'm saying Philistia is because we got to go back to the root, everyone, to realize that how we got to this point in time today. I'm talking about with this president, with all administrations you ever had, every vote of change of legislations that you therefore have never seen, but here it is, have executive orders been signed over and over, right? These people, who is Philistia? Why this is such the topic tonight? Because it is, these are about people who have always been in power, okay? People who have always been in what? Power. Why? Because here it is, power in the wrong hands cause problems.
Correct.
So today, now, here it is, we're going to find out and really discover a little bit about who is Philistines, or who is Gaza, or who is Ammonite, and who is, because here it is, we're looking at neighbors of cousins sharing a border, okay? Who therefore was always empowered, right? Because it is, these people came into the land of Israel. Let's don't forget that. 46? Mm-hmm. So here it is. It made Israel here. 48. It made it a state. Mm-hmm. So now here it is. Now we know the history and the wisdom comes from that knowledge passed down to the offspring, mm-hmm. which is us, everyone. So Yah says, I'm calling back who? Israel. Mm-hmm. And I'm calling back who? Judah. Mm-hmm. So that means here it is, you got 2 nations which came out of the womb, which we got Jacob and Esau. 2 nations coming out of the womb of Rebecca, right? Yes. So now that we see now down the line, every time, every generation, mm-hmm. who is Philistine? Because here it is, we're looking at now like a catfish. Because this is a mixture of something eating different types of things from all types of things, right? Just like the pig will eat anything, right? Mm-hmm. So that means that's a mixture. That means it has no barrier of what it will consume or won't consume, mm-hmm. right? So now here it is, that one thing that consumes it all becomes now a part of all what it consumes. That's what I'm talking about, everybody. Mm-hmm. So now when we see Philistia, who is Philistines? Now Philistia is the Philistines, right? But now let's understand a little bit of understanding of detail of why we must discover how we have gotten to this point between Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu and many other coalitions of people who are now basically coming into forces Okay, we done seen the wars, like I mentioned, Marcus. You probably didn't hear about that one, but you heard about Gaza and you heard about the Philistines. Okay, with Israel, war going back and forth, Hamas, right? So now here it is. This is why we're going to be talking about this, because this is important for not only for your knowledge, but for your understanding to what is going on right now, and to therefore to realize that how change will probably happen in some areas of your life as we go through this trial and tribulation, while other things won't. So here it is. This will give us the understanding of why we must pay attention to what is going on, not only what's in our own country, but also what is going on in the other international countries. Because here it is, we know that the executive orders that every administration signs, every president signs, is basically giving him the power of what television devices, electronics, and so on and so on. To what they show you and what they won't show you, what they will give you and what they won't give you, just like Trump's $2,000 joke stimulus to every individual for tariffs, okay? Who is Philistia? So now y'all basically starting to understand where we're going with this, because here it is. This is Yah in the spirit of us all here at IVI. Basically, it is working through us to share the information, the missing pieces that is missing in everybody's life. Because now, as we have taught here at IVI, everyone is an Israelite outwardly, because here it is. I just mentioned Noah had 3 sons, right? So, and on and on and on, if you have followed the Bible that far. And here it is. Now we are seeing that we have a nation that has always been ruling. Who is Philistia? Which now you know we're talking about Philistines. Okay? And let's go into some logic reading. So this is just some logic reading. Philistines, a people who occupied part of the coastal plains of Philistine and were often at war with the Israelites. Okay? So now we know we're talking to a certain particular people of a circle of particular people, like I just said, right? We just had Isaac and then we had Ishmael, right? It's always been 2 nations fighting, right? So who is Philistia? Now here it is, as I continue, it says they were originally from the islands and have been displaced by wide and disruptive populations. And here it is, movements in the region in the period. It is after Capitor, which we know that is one of the towns or cities that was around the Euphrates River, reaching out as far as the Mediterranean Sea. Because here it is, we know that therefore we are talking about the sea people, as we will actually find out later in a minute in this lesson. Now, sometimes in the Old Testament, the Philistines, here it is, tried to invade Egypt, but when were turned back in a major battle, they then took some coastal cities. Watch this, everybody, because we know that when Joseph went to Egypt, he therefore called out his family out of where? Canaan. So coastal cities from Canaanites, and here it is, settled there. So now Gaza, Ashdod, and Ashkelon is on the coast, and Gath and Ekron, which is basically off of the Euphrates River. Okay, this is where Abraham was at. Okay, so now we're going to realize how our ancestors have always been in contact with such people who will always actually have power. Okay, or lineage back to power. Okay, so now here it is. It's finna show us now that Gaza, as I just said Ashdod and Ashkelon, and on the coast of Gath and Ekron, inland became important Philistine centers. Each ruled, now back then in kingdoms, they said Lord. Okay, that's why we get Lord Baal and all of these other Lord Bor. And here it is, we see many of the Greeks have started that word Lord with Lord, and we also see the lowercase Lord Lord, right? So now here it is, You now know the Philistines are the one that created that Lord to be implemented. And now we see that here it is. Later, they were called kings. These city-states were independent. Now watch this now. Who is Philistine? Now realize this is everyone that was independent. Now we know the Israelites wasn't independent of anything. Our ancestors wasn't independent of anything. They was in slavery. They had a yoke around their neck, right? So now here it is. We know that they had harsher times than our mothers, because here it is. They didn't go through the plantation. Their mothers did, right? So they could not really feel that real effect of that slavery until the mental one came. This is what our people at today, right? So now we say this happened by independent cities that therefore was a Philistine. Because now he says, but often united for military purposes. See that? Don't the United States, they're independent. And here it is, they will unite, just like they said, save Israel, save Gaza. Y'all remember this, right? Which was independent of their own, so why would they need help? Because here it is, they're calling on the help that already belonged to them. That means here it is, the United States is Philistine as well. A mixed race of them, okay? Even Britain, all right? So now here it is, we're looking at that, not only just the cities, we're looking at the islands from where our people were therefore Jamaicans, Swahilian brothers and sisters from Tonga, you know, from Tong. That one, Tongo, I think she was the braiding hair, the one sister. She's from Tonga.
I believe so.
Yeah, so that's our island brothers and sisters. Look it up, research. So now here it is, I continue my logic. They usually unite for military purposes. The word Palestine, naming the biblical region, here it is from Philistia. So now here it is. In the Bible, you might see this word Philistia, and it's spelled Phillistia, Philistia. Just like the title tonight, what we have on here on this segment of IBI. The name given, watch this, by the Assyrians. See, this is all from the scrolls, from the big books. Everything was documented, stayed intact, right? So now here it is, now brought into English form to give us a better view of, therefore, what it is saying from the right to the left, right? So, or left to the right. So now, as you read, we see that the Assyrians to the small coastal region where the Philistines lived. For over 150 years, the Philistines thrived. Watch this. Seizing. Now, who do this a lot? Seize property. America, daughter Babylon, right? Mystery Babylon, who ain't a mystery no more, who is tied to who? Philistia. So now watch this. He says additional lands as needed from the Canaanites. Seizing additional lands as needed from the Canaanites. Now remember, that's why I mentioned Joseph was in Egypt. He called his parents and his families and brothers out of where? Canaan. And guess who was taking over Canaan? Philistia. So now here it is. The Israelites, their iron-made weapons, here it is, they manufactured of which they kept a monopoly, gave their soldiers a great advantage. See, everything that they went and therefore pirated, they kept. And here it is, they passed that out like spoils unto their army soldiers. So now what we see here, but under David, or King David, the Israelites rebuilt their army and turned the military tides. See, they stopped being pirates, and here it is, robbers, and became now dignified under Yahweh. Because David, here it is, he's son for the house of Israel, right? Out of Jesse. So now we are seeing now Philistines now have their hands in everything, right? So now understand, he says, the Philistines' warrior class suffered heavy losses. Here it is from David, as we know in 2 Samuel 5:17 through 27. And here it is, and they was defeated by Israel. And also we know the Philistines, they also lost their language. See this? the Philistines lost their language, which is almost nothing is known of their language. Watch this. Using instead a Canaanite here, the dialect. That's right. Write that word down, everyone. D-I-A-L-E-C-T. Dialect. So now watch this. A Canaanite dialect, and here it is in Armenic. So here it is, Armenian. So here it is. We are seeing that therefore they have adopted all the other language that was their cousins, like I had said earlier, down the Euphrates River. So leading out to the Mediterranean Sea, right? Of the sea people. So now after Nebuchadnezzar had ravished Syria and Palestine in several campaigns, the Philistines lost their identity through the deportations, watch this, throughout the Babylonian, watch this, empire and by the assimilations of those who remain into a now mixed local population. Didn't I say that? That's why we're saying this is about race. Because here it is, we got to realize we're looking at Philistia, all those who were tied to the lineage of power, which is tied back to the lineage to the devil, right? Because here it is, the devil runs the world, right? So now we see the UN is in power, and that power is given to what? Man and woman, right? That works under that power. So that who is Philistine, right? So now everyone can see who is really putting their hand or their foot down on your neck, as they used to say in the 60s. The man got his foot on my neck. And here it is. I can't get up higher because here it is. He keep putting his foot on my neck. Then they use the same thing with George Floyd, right? Can't breathe. Here it is. Because his knee was on his neck, right? You see how lower it's getting? It done went from the foot to now, here it is, Philistia. It's done got even bolder to now squat down with the knee on your neck. So here it is. They're now fearing you because here it is. They have lured you off the track by, here it is, making you not obey Yah. Because here it is, Babylon. Everything is flocking to Babylon. The mystery daughter here, you see, because she's got wealth like Egypt. Egypt had all of the gold and silver. And here it is, we see that therefore ancient Babylon off the Euphrates River where Abraham was at, it had so many gods and different other religions and so on and so on. And they also was traders, right? So now here it is. This is all making sense on the notes of the scrolls that's been now converted back over for our understanding so we can be aware of the history of the past. And here it is, knowing about the present, so we can see exactly what this future is for Israelite brothers and sisters. Willing to be Yah's children and those who are unwilling. Because here it is, if you're unwilling, you got to really realize if you are in power or is you rich to be able to therefore overcome what is coming up on the world. So that means every Israelite have to be on a different plane. That means here it is thinking and also feeling and wanting. Because he says you got to have zeal for the power of the law, right? So now we're seeing who is Philistine. Because now you're seeing is everything that's tied to power as Nebuchadnezzar's. And then as we have seen through the Babylonian Empire. And then we now have seen now mixed local population. Because now we are seeing everybody is not worried about who they date anymore, right? We're seeing this population of mixed population brewing. Yeah. But here it is. We're also seeing that here it is, these Philistines, or here it is, Palestines. We're seeing that also are the Philistines. Because now we're going into other nations because we just seen a mixed local. So now Philistines also have to be thrown into the mix here, right? Because here it is in Hebrew, it says pathorim, or equal to pathros, which is a nation of people. Okay, Kepater, we just saw that in here in this logic, which as I had read up top here, let me see if I can find that right here. So we see that here it is. Clearly, they were originally for Argentine islands and have been displaced by wide and disruptive populations. And it had been displaced by a wide and disruptive population, had been displaced by a wide movements in the Argentine region in the period, in the movement. And then we see that after a stay, and they say Crete, called Capiter. So now in Crete, you see that word Crete, and then you see Captor, Caphtor, which is relating to the same people. This was all done on purpose to throw you off who is who and what is what, right? So now here it is. Now we're realizing clearly Philistines comes into the picture, and we see that therefore here's another logic before we even get into the precepts, everybody. We see known as Lebanon. So Lebanon also is part of who? Is Philistia. Who is Philistia, right? Mm-hmm. So now all of these are cousins or relationships with each other. As you look on the map now, you can see the correlation building up against Israel. Mm-hmm. Lebanon is one of them, right? Then we just proved that in our last video of the complete siege of America, which is coming under the one world religion, which dominates all under all, because here it is. It's going to be like a Nebuchadnezzar. We just read that now, like the statue, all worship, right? One religion, one world government, right? So now he says, known as Lebanon, and its people were a Mediterranean. Watch this. Now here it is. Lebanon is a Mediterranean race that had been blended with various Semitic, watch this, invaders. So now here it is. What I just got finished explaining ahead of to this have therefore now just made known to what have been converted from out of the notebooks of the writings of the scrolls, and now realizing into the dictionary of now of the Hebrew mathematics of understanding. Because now various Semitic invaders. Now you can see why Babylon became so religious. Why Philistines, why the Romans, and why many other of these nations was worshiping other gods. And this was all around Abraham, Isaac, okay? And here it is. We now also see even with Moses as well and Joshua down later on down the road. Now, especially the Amorites. See, all of these are cousins. And here it is, they were in contact because here it is, they were around products of wheat, products of barley, products of grapes, products of fruit. And here it is, products of olives. And here it is, of cedar, pine. And here it is, they provided, here it is, as traders. Christopher Columbus, later down the road, let's speed it all the way up. He was what? A trader. To go out and explore and find and bring back, right? Mm-hmm. Who is Philistia? Is this coming out and let you see about who they are? Because they're part of a mixed race of people who now being converted, right? Into now what we're seeing, how and why the world is where it is right now. Now he says, traders with building materials much sought after by the Egyptians and others. They furnished building materials and craftsmen. Solomon's extension for his building projects. The Philistines were essentially international traders. Didn't I say that earlier? Mm-hmm. International. So who do this international import and export today? Caucasians and many other, Italy, and many others, right, who are part of all G summits, right? So now you're realizing who is really making all of the changes around for the world to be moved into, like chess pieces, okay? But here it is, watch this now. He said, establish colonies for trade in North Africa. Ooh, who is Philistia? They go as far up into North Africa. This is why most North African have many white Caucasian parents or from different other backgrounds different than Africa. Okay, is this starting to click? So now we see Carthage, Tunis, and Hopi, or Hippo, Hopi, Hippo, and in Spain. So now here it is. Now you realize why the Spanish Americans had our people as slaves first. Who is Philistia? Is this starting to knock on a lot of hearts and minds? Everyone, shalom, shalom, brothers and sisters. And thank you, Almighty Yah. Because here it is. This is going to allow our brothers and sisters to realize who is your brother, who is your sister, and who really is your Almighty Father. And it's not the Pope. Okay? Who is Philistia? Everyone that therefore is part of this earthly world is Philistia, who is tied back to powers that helps control you and I, or the decisions we might have to make in life. Because here it is. It was a decree, not from the devil, but it was a decree because of our ancestors broke a covenant that was prior given. Correct. Amen. Amen. So now here it is. This is why this subject is going to be so powerful, everyone. And this is why I said take notes where you may, because here it is. These are puzzle pieces here at IBI that we share to give unto our brothers and sisters who therefore truly want to know what is going on and basically put things together for things that they might be working on already, that Yah might already be calling into existence to help you foresee. Right. Amen. Amen. So now, when we see now the Philistines and the Philistines, and then we see the Philistines as sailors, and here it is, and we're first skilled navigators known to history. They was the first to navigate. Didn't we say Christopher Columbus used the compass? Yep. So now you can realize where masonry came from later on down the road, sororities for every college, and Kappa, and and so on and on, right? So now what we see, brothers and sisters, is going to take us, let's close this big buck up. What Yah is decreeing, thank God, and why it's important for all of us to start paying attention, because the world is folding up. It's not, here it is, staying on a solid ground. Everything is being moved out of place. People, countries, economics, politicians, and to the fabric of your existence is changing because of AI. And we see that here it is. Many brothers and sisters are walking around with these in their hand every day. And here it is. Before these can be in your hand, brothers and sisters could actually have a greeting meeting and see each other face to face when you pass each other in the store or wherever you might be. Now everybody's so busy with these because here it is. This is tied back to who is Philistine. To a system that is programming your mind, your heart, and your spirit. Getting you to be baptized in hell instead of baptized in eternal life. So now here it is. Philistia, who are they? Right? As we're coming to understanding now, it's a mixed nation. They could be white, dark, or brown. Could be an Indian, okay? It could be a Mongoloid, okay? So here it is. Who is Philistia? It's tied back to the working corporate power. But here it is. The Bible Yah wants us to see how long they've been in power like this, right? And why now we're getting to a point where everybody's starting to see this power. Because at first everybody thought they was independent, like we just seen. But truly you wasn't, because only countries that had their own independence was independent, such as Spain, where our people was taken, right? We were independent before we were taken. Because here it is, our own people took us first and used us, and then they used, here it is, the man that came to Guinea to auction us off a few times, right?
Yep.
Before that, they invited you over to go check the place out. 1619, before that, right? So that means these brothers and sisters had to been aware of the Spanish, and they had to walk them into that other Amorites and Moab and so on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now here it is. We've seen that we have 5 cities we named. And we also see that Canaanites were part of this movement back and forth, as we seen Joseph call his family out. And we know Philistines were also around the Israelites of Jacob. And here it is, they adopted most of their Canaanite paganism. And this is why Abraham left too as well, okay? And then we seen that they formed governments and federations.
Mm-hmm.
We see that going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
We the offsprings.
Mm-hmm.
Our ancestors didn't get to see this. We are seeing this, right? And we're on a so-called independence, okay? Because we just proved that everybody is walking around with this, face down. No one talks no more, right? Because AI is programming something that's not functioning here.
Mm-hmm.
Because the heart is not filled with Yah. It's not on the commandments of Yahweh. It's on the worldly things, which are of the flesh, which making this becomes hard as stone. Okay, we know the scriptures, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now here it is. This is what's doing that, taking you from reality, right? We know about historical era. We know about the Iron Age. We done talked about that here on IBI, right? The late Bronze Age and its collapse, right? Around 1175 BC, before Common Era. The Syrian conquest, we talked about that. Who preceded and who succeeded. The Canaanites, the Neo-Assyrian Empire, we talked about that. Today, we have seen that Egypt is part of Philistia, because here it was in its working anything with power, right?
Mm-hmm.
Israel is Philistia, because it's got its own powers now, its own technologies now, right? By the help of who? Daughter Babylon and Britain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gaza Strip. Now it's been taken by who? Israel. Swallowed up. They had their independence, but it was taken from them. Just live on TV here on us, on our clock, right? Now, the 5 lords of the Philistines are described in the Hebrew Bible as being in constant struggle, everybody, and interactions with the neighboring Israelites, as we have proved, the Canaanites, the Egyptians, and here it is being gradually absorbed into the Canaanite culture. This is why, here it is, many of them who were in Canaan had statues and they worship Asherahs and many other things, as we have read. They ruled major parts of the southern Canaan at the peak of his expansion, but was eventually conquered and subdued by the neighboring Israelite. What we just read about, David actually basically coming to do them and subdue them. The Philistines were not mentioned following, here it is, the Neo-Assyrian Empire. But we see east of Gaza, the Iron Age kingdoms in the 9th century of BCE, before Common Era, the Philistia or Philistine is shown in red. And we can see that on the graphic of a map. When you pull that up, you can see exactly. The area east of Gaza is particularly around, here it is, Basor, and that reaches into the hills as far as Beersheba. So now here it is. We see that David had a lot of workings with Beersheba, that land, that area of Israel. So now we know this area is part of Negev desert, and it also includes Gara to the north, and that joins Nahal, which is Bazor, before flowing into the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, this is why we came up earlier about the sea people, because this was the Gazaneans, who therefore were later called what? The sea people. So now we are knowing that we have talked and covered many of this in our segments here at IVI, Intelligent Voices, Israelites. Most of you brothers and sisters will have to actually go to our archives and pull up on spending some time there, just, you know, scouring over some of our videos. But now, as we see now, Philistine, all these, they settled around each other. So that's why we was talking about the cousins. And here it is, understanding the politics of now, here it is, those who are constantly in power to this day, making things worse. Why? Because it is not their decree, but it's by our Father, your Father, our Father, Yahweh's decree. Because here it is, he says, if the days hadn't been shortened for the elect's sake, then no one have been saved, not even us, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So he says, in the last days, I'm going to raise up my servants, and they're going to be used to give you my decrees, things that haven't been talked about in truth. So therefore, our people can truly find who they belong to, what side. Because here it is, Yah says, as far as from the east to the west, that is drawing a line. And when you draw a line, that means here it is on a piece of paper, east to west, you get a parallel. Because here it is now only a line, but it is giving you the difference between two sides. There either is a winner or a loser. Okay? There is a danger or there's safety, right? So here it is. The Bible is telling us, here it is, we must be the Israelites of the offsprings that come back to our minds. Not only that, but follow our hearts into Yahweh, right? Because he says you're going to be into a land not your own, because your ancestors brought your mothers here. And here it is. And if it wasn't for them being brought here, you wouldn't be here. You'll still be over there in Africa, right? So now what we see here it is, and people wouldn't have been scattered because there wouldn't have been no building of the tower of thinking, here it is, outside of the box of Yahweh. Because here it is, this is why we see many nations went into their own religions, and this is how we get Canaanites and Egyptians and many others, right? Who is Philistine. So now let's start, everybody. Let's look. 7 nations descended from Noah, right? And we know that when we look at Genesis, let's go take a look here. I think I got my Bible open here on my digital phone. This is going to show us, everybody, who is Philistine. So that way you ain't just tying it down to a white person. And here it is, or here it is, thinking that it's only people who therefore like Bill Gates and all these. No, they Philistine. Don't get it wrong, but they're a mixed nation of blood, because all of our ancestors was mixing and matching everything with everything, right? Doing things outside of the law of Yah. So now go to Genesis 10, chapter 14. Chapter 10, verse 14. So we're going to shine some light, everybody, tonight. And shalom to all our brothers and sisters around who are doing well as we are as well. And keeping Yah strong in your life, making sure you steadfast in your prayers, everybody. And making sure you share this word of inspiration to your brothers and sisters who truly love knowing where they're going to be going after this life, and knowing that it is in the kingdom of Yahweh and not in the kingdom of Satan or Apollo or Abaddon. So now when we see here in Genesis chapter 10, my wife is going to read verse 14 for us real loud.
Okay.
Dear Mojo lovers,
I'm sorry for that, y'all.
The Patharism, the Catholics, Casalium,
Casalium, which is Kepater.
Okay.
So Kepatus.
Okay.
So we talked about that, everybody. So this is what she's saying in her book.
Okay.
Right.
And the Captorium, from whom the Philistines came.
There you go. So now in my physical, thank you, wife, you did so well. And here it is, parism, and chalusm, is that chasalism, or capitur. So that would be capitur. They got it spelled wrong. It's not even spelled right. Okay. And now here it is, descended from. So now we're seeing that 70 nations descended from Noah, as we see in Genesis chapter 10. And this is some of the nations that came out into that, of 70 nations descended out from Noah. And here it is, we're seeing that these are the ones that's still in power. We got the Arabs that's still in power. They control the gas. We got them in the clothing stores, the Eastern Indians. Most of our people don't own most of nothing. Most of everything is owned by someone else who is Philistine. So here it is, tied to the lineage of money, wealth, power, or here it is, as we have proved, masonry. Okay. So now go to Jeremiah, because we're going to now see that the Aramaic region, or of Philistia in Jeremiah as well. Watch this. I want to go to Jeremiah chapter 47. Jeremiah 47. And looking at verse 3 through 4. At the noise of the stamping of the hooves of his strong ones, at the rushing of his chariot, at the rumbling of his wheels, don't look back to their children for feebleness of hands, because of the day that comes to destroy all, watch this, Philistines, watch this, to cut off from Tyre and Sidon every helper who remains, for Yahweh will destroy the Philistines, the remnant of island of Capital. See that right there, everybody. So now here it is. Well, my wife was reading out a physical book. I'm reading out of my phone to give more clarity to understand that we're seeing how power started and how power later is going to end. And power will be therefore flipped around and given to those who were in power. Because here it is, these who have taken power have completely mutilated the moral respect for their brother or their sister, which have caused many blemishes down the generations, as we've seen with many of our ancestors worshiping many, when Yah says, do not go into their land and copy their traditions. Do not pick up their behaviors. Do not do what you see them do. Go and return to your men that I have assigned unto you to give you guidance. This is how it was. When the cities and all of this new galaxy came into play, meaning creation of states and cities. And here it is, the decoratives that came out of that by the craftsmanship of men. Who is Philistine? It was the men that therefore were tied to money, because here it is, they had the tools, which we proved that. And here it is, they had the means of getting around as they traveled, right? With the goods. So now we see now in 3 through 4, and now we see Tyre and Sidon, every helper. This is why we looked at North Africa, everybody, which his father is also Nigeria, because we seen that Philistia go as farther into that land of Africa, northern parts of Africa, where all the money was at. Look at Nelson Mandela. Do your research, everybody that's young. So you can see how many men were corrupt and systems became unrighteous and broken or dismantled by the helping hands of who is Philistine. Because it is this nation is a mixture of all different nations of our people. But here it is on a wicked plane, a plan. Because here it is, they were in it to therefore persecute those who therefore wouldn't research. And here it is, who is Philistia? They read. They go to college, the kids got tuitions, and you know what I'm saying? But when it comes down to the so-called, that means you can be a Hebrew, African American, or you can be of any other different Israelite. It's for you too. If you're being persecuted by who is Philistia, right?
Correct. It don't matter what color you is.
Go ahead. It don't matter what color you is no more, right? So here it is. So that way you can't just be pointing at all. You got to point at everybody, right? That is not in alignment with the law.
That's right.
Because here it is. Yah says, I didn't come to abolish the law or to get rid of it.
I came to add to it.
To fulfill it.
Yep.
To fulfill.
Yep.
To therefore add to it what you're missing. What you're missing is how to follow it. Yep. Because your ancestors broke my what? Covenant.
And how to love the covenant.
And how to love the covenant.
Yep.
So now we're seeing that today with our brothers and sisters. Is basically in lingo. So now here it is. For unknown reason, as we know, Philistine, here it is, migrated from their region to the Mediterranean coast near, watch this, Gaza, and therefore they were later called the Sea People. Now here it is, Benjamin Netanyahu just bombed on Gaza, right? Completely annihilated it, just like the word said it would be. Yeah. But here it is. Now you're seeing that it only got consumed by its own power.
Exactly.
So now what we're watching on TV is only power or time of the Gentiles, everybody. Right. So who is Philistia? Meaning that therefore you have to look at anything that is a heathen and is a Gentile tied to a world of economics, political, okay, social, and many other tied hands to media. So now here it is, you got to see that's all by influence. And they say money make the world go round, right? So here it is, you see even America promoting the dollar bill in a cultic fashion with the pyramid on the back, which many brothers and sisters are seeing, right? Yeah. So now here it is, if you don't find out who is Philistia, then you already defeated. Yeah. You won't know how to hold your money. You won't know how to do this or do that, right? Because here it is, you didn't know how to pray for it. So now here it is, who is Philistia? You now can identify those who are trying to keep you away from Yahweh. Yeah. That means they can look dark, brown as me, lighter as me. That would be one that's using power that's tied back to Satan, who gave it to Philistia to run you. Because the UN is running the whole world. Britain is independent still on its own, right? And then they robbed and stole and took gold and silver and copper. We just talked about the Bronze Age, Israelites. Look at Maccabees, book of 1 and 2. If you want to look at that research, brothers and sisters. So now here it is. In the past, these people had contact with Abraham, as I had pointed out, Isaac, and as we have seen this, we must go to Genesis, because here it is, proof is always good receipts, right? Amen. Philistia has always been around good brothers, and here it is, leaders of nations, because here it is, this is where they want to be, so they can do the trading and they bidding and and so on and selling, right? So now in Genesis, we see in chapter 21, verse 32. This is all research. Verse 32 through 34, Genesis chapter 21. Because we just got finished pointing out David and also Samuel, 2 Samuel and 1 Samuel. And here it is. And now we're in the precept and we're seeing here it is, who is Philistia, and now realizing it's a system that is constantly in control right now. Okay. Verse 32, it says, so they made a covenant at Beersheba. Amalek rose up, the captain of his army, and they returned into the land of Philistines, right? Abraham, watch this, verse 33, planted, here it is, a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and called there on the name of Yahweh, the everlasting Elohim. Abraham lived as a foreigner, watch this, verse 34, in the land, watch this, of Philistine, many days, okay? Many days. Because now we got to realize who is Philistia. They are tied back to the Euphrates River of those, here it is, Yah says, I will tell the angel to go release those who are bound to the Euphrates River, which is basically tied to the ancient Babylon of where Abraham came, okay? Now we're knowing that also Philistia was also among the Canaanites, okay, and many others, nations, in those 5 cities of the lords, because they were calling themselves lords, okay? And we don't prove when that came into play, just earlier opening up this segment. So for many of you who are basically just tuning in, you might have to wait and go back and rewind this whole video and listen, prepare. So Abraham lived as a foreigner. That means not as a person living among them with them in their traditions, but he was set apart. See? It shows that he was a foreigner. He wasn't from their land. He wasn't from their traditions. See that? And then it says, in the lands of the Philistines many days. So now who is Philistia? This is the ones who have been in power. Okay? So now when we see Genesis 21, 32, 34, it takes us clearly now to Genesis chapter 26. Sorry about that, everyone. And this is going to allow us to see that our great men of prophecy have been around these type of people as we are today. Mm-hmm. Because what did Yeshua say? So shall they be in the days of Noah. Mm-hmm. They will be selling, buying, here it is, drinking, and doing immoral things, right? All the way up until the time you get into the ark, Noah.
And not listening and thinking we crazy.
Right, and thinking you crazy, right? So now what we see clearly here in Genesis 26, 1 through 8, there was a famine in the land in addition to the first famine. See this? In addition to the first famine. So now many brothers and sisters haven't heard who is Philistia, to now understand it is tied to a system that is oppressing you by its prosperity. See that? So now he says, in addition to the first famine that was in the days of Abraham, Isaac went to Amalek, king of the what? Philistines. And here it is. Yahweh appeared to him and said, don't go down into Egypt. Live in the land. It is, I will tell you about. Watch this. Verse 3. Live in the land, and I will be with you, and will bless you, for I will give to you into your what? Offspring. This is what I was talking about earlier today. And he says, all these lands, and I will establish the oath which I swore. Here it is. This is that covenant that our ancestors, when I was talking about our mothers, their ancestors broke the covenant with Yah, is right here. And I will establish the oath which I swore to Abraham, your, here it is, leader of the nation. See that? I will multiply your offsprings. And then he says, and will give you all these lands to your offsprings. In your offsprings, he says, all the nations of the earth, watch this, will be what? Blessed. Because it is anyone that now know that you must now be empowered by Yahweh now. Mm-hmm. You now don't become oppressed by Philistia anymore. Mm-hmm. You become now a bearer witnesser against her now. right? Because now through the power of Yahweh's Spirit.
Right.
Because now he says, because of Abraham, he says in verse 5, obeyed my voice and kept my requirements, my commandments, watch this, my statutes and my laws. That means the feast days and holidays. Brothers and sisters, like you was mentioning, the Sabbath, that means don't go shopping and doing all these things. You're supposed to be at complete rest. This is under the law that Yeshua says I didn't come to abolish, for you to keep.
Yep.
So why will you shop on Saturday? Why would you do any buying or dealing on Saturday when it is my Sabbath?
Right.
That means you are not among my children. You are not my child.
Right, because you're not following it.
His laws and his statutes, right? Then he says in verse 6, Isaac lived in Gerar, and the men of that place asked him about his wife. Watch this. He said, she is my sister, for he was afraid to say my wife, for he thought the men of the place might kill him, and then therefore take Rebekah, because she is beautiful to look at. You see this? She is beautiful to look at. Why he says beautiful? Because this is around the time when skin did matter, brothers and sisters. Because here it is, you know the phrase, black of the berry, sweeter the juice. I'm black and I'm proud. I'm black and I'm beautiful. You heard all of these nicknames and bywords that we have used. So now here it is. Why he was saying this, it was not because their women were ugly or something. It was because they had no color. Okay? They was under a curse. And they had color. So that means, therefore, at this time, there was war between the albino Israelites times those who weren't albino at this time. Okay? So keep that in mind. So now when we see this, Isaac was caressing Rebekah. He says, let me get back up top. And he says, kill me for Rebekah because she was beautiful to look at. When he had been there, verse 8, a long time, watch this, Amalish, king of Philistine, see this? Looked out a window. Now remember our brothers and sisters who ancestors was raped in the cotton fields, in slavery in the Spain fields, and were raped, and so on, passed around many other nations and were raped. So now here it is. We see clearly the same evidence right here. When he had been there, this is Philistia. He looked out of a window and saw, and behold, Isaac was caressing Rebekah, his wife, okay, which he didn't know that was his wife. So now here it is. When you finish reading that whole story, you'll find out that he was asking, why did you do that to me? You told me that was your sister. I would have never took her if I would have known that you were legally married to her. And therefore, that whatever y'all put together, let no man separate. I would have let y'all go about y'all business, right? Because I wouldn't want to be cursed by Almighty Yahweh.
Right, of course.
So this is what he was saying. So now as we see clearly, this is bigger than the white man. This is so bigger than the white man. I mean, this is bigger than him. Because why? Because here it is, even though his line is started due to the lack of obedience, because we can always go back and look at the Tower of Babel. And here it is to see that they was really not building a tower for Yah. They was building it for themselves.
Right.
So that means they was already out of character, out of mind, clearly out of spirit, right? And guidance for the Most High Father, who therefore created every Israelite through Noah, who started the 70 nations, right? Then I say that earlier. So now, as I look here, Isaac's involvement with Philistine also came, as we seen Abraham and many of our brothers and sisters like Moses and many others. We must look at also Genesis 26:16, same chapter, everybody. Because Amalek said to Isaac, go away from us, he says, for you are much mightier than we. See this? In verse 16, chapter 26 of Genesis. Isaac departed from there and camped in the valley of Gerar and lived there. Isaac dug again the wells of waters which they had dug in the days of Abraham, his ancestor, it is parent, for the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham. See this? So here it is. They was coming to conquer. Now here it is. We see America have been going to war, but never had a war done in her ever. But that now has changed. Then we just say it's being, here it is, rolled or reversed now. Okay? Because now the same goes for her, who is also tied to Philistine, her people. Europe, Spain, Rome, Russia, China, wherever, Japan, Dutch, okay? And here it is. He called their names after the names by which his ancestor parent had called them. See this? Isaac kept it in the law. Isaac, he says, servants dug in the valley and found there was a well of spring of water. The herdsmen argued with Isaac, saying, the water is ours. Now, these are Philistines. And he says, the water is ours. He called the name of the well because they contended with him. He called it evil. And then he continued here, and also in 21, they dug another well and they argued over that. Also, he called its name Sheneh. He left that place and dug another well, verse 22. They didn't argue over that one. He called it Rehoboth. He said, for now Yahweh has made room for us, and we will be fruitful in the land. He went up from there to Beersheba. Yahweh appeared to him in the same night and said, I am Yahweh, here it is, of Abraham, your ancestors. Don't be afraid, for I am with you and will bless you. Multiply your what? Offsprings for my servant Abraham's sake, because Abraham is gone. So now here it is. Isaac, here it is being blessed, not cursed. He's not being disrespectful to his cousins, his so on brothers and sisters. So he says in verse 25, he built an altar there and called on Yahweh's name, not the name of Canaanite gods. Pitched his tent there. There Isaac's servants dug a well. Then Abimelech went to him and his friend and the captains. Isaac said to them, why have you come to me, since you hate me and have sent me away from you? They said in verse 28, we saw plainly that Yahweh was what? With you. We said, let there now be an oath between us. See that? Even between us and you, and let's make a covenant with you. Now keep in mind, brothers and sisters, Yahweh says, don't be like their traditions. So now you're seeing the Philistines becoming like who? Amalek, his traditions. Isaac, here it is, traditions. Because now you're seeing that what he did, he didn't fight with them. He just kept moving until he found the right hole. That belongs to them. And then in verse 29, he says that you will do us no harm as we have not touched you. Because now they're saying, in order for us to get blessed like you or become like you, here it is, we must therefore serve like you. And that's what they did. They made peace, right? And as we have done to you nothing but good and have sent you away in peace, you are now the blessed of Yahweh. He made them a feast, and they ate, and they what? Drank. So now, brothers and sisters, we're seeing Isaac in connections or having involvement with Philistines. People who were tied to a worldly riches that would therefore be the ones that help destroy or bring the prophecy of our Father into play in the later future after Abraham descendants and then their descendants to offsprings and offsprings. See this? Down to us, you and I, brothers and sisters. So now Yahweh changed their direction out of Egypt, because here it is. We see that Moses had a hard time with Philistines as well. Now let's go to Exodus chapter 13. And we see here in 17 to 21, we see Yahweh lead Israel or Israelites, because I don't like to leave it in the past like that, because now we're up to date. Everybody know we are all Israelites created, but here it is, only the return are Israelites, returning under a new covenant under Yahweh.
Correct.
That means here it is, which is decreed under the same statutes, the laws that are given to us by Yeshua, by Yahweh. Okay. So now when we look here, we see when Pharaoh had let the people go, Yah didn't lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, although that they were near, for Yah said, let not perhaps the people change their minds when they see war and they return to Egypt. But Yah led the people around by the way of the wilderness by the Red Sea, and the children of Israelites went up armed out of the land, here it is, of Egypt, because Pharaoh supplied. Moses took the bones of Joseph, there go Joseph, with him, for he made the children of Israelites, here it is, obey, saying, Yahuwah will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones away from here with you. They took their journey from Succoth and encamped in Eham in the edges of the wilderness, right? Yahweh went before them by day in a pillar to lead them on their way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them, here it is, light, that they might go by day and by night. See this? And then we see the pillar of the cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night didn't depart before the people. So now this is clearly allowing us to see now, Philistia knew that the only way that they can get you to sin is to get you basically from stop following Yahweh's laws. We seen in that with Abraham, we seeing that with Isaac, and we are also seeing this with Moses. Yah always didn't want our true brothers and sisters to be around brothers and sisters or cousins, however you might like it. Therefore, to be with those who are in error, because it boomeranged off of the principle of the Tower of Babel. Because here it is, this is why the destruction of the flood of the deluge had to come, because here it is, Yah says, I must destroy all evil. But it kept growing, as we see, right? And now we see Egyptians also and many others are part of this mixed race of Philistia. This blood is contaminated.
Correct.
And in order for you to fix it, you got to understand how. And we got a video, archive video, Contaminated Blood, on our archive video. Look for that title, everyone, and view it at your own best time. But now, as we see here, Philistines moved inland in the coasts of Canaan, built 5 cities near Ekron. And we have seen these cities, and they're outlined in Joshua. And let's look at Joshua. Have you read Joshua chapter 13. And when you get there, it's going to be 3 through 7. And this is clearly why America is Babylon, as we done pointed out, to show you that it has adopted Philistia to the T, because it's been around since ancient Babylon, and it's one of the offsprings of those ancestors. Mm-hmm. This is how Philistia have continued on growing over the generations. Mm-hmm. So now here it is. When you see here in 7, what was that? Joshua 3-7, chapter 13. Chapter 13. You will see all of these cities that were around ancient Babylon, where Abraham came out of. And also we see where Joseph called his parents and his brothers them from out of Canaan, and which is before Egypt and even to the borders of Ekron northward, which is counted as Canaanite. See that? So as you go farther north, here it is into Canaanite, the 5 lords of Philistines, and the Gazarites, that go Gaza, and the Asadites, and Ashkelonites, and Gizites, and Ekronites, and also Avim. So now we got all of these nations here that are part of Philistia. Mm-hmm. So if you never knew, the people who are tied to the power, like you got Bill Gates, Buffett's, many of these names you people have heard, you're now realizing these are the same sickos that are basically, here it is, have prophesied these prophecies into their blood lineage, because here it is, from their ancestors have they copied their ancestors, their offsprings, and they have done only worse as their ancestors, okay? Because now we're seeing, here it is, the world have got so bad, I mean worse, to the point of people have no even respect for salvation. There's only a small remnant out there. So now realize, clearly, we see on the south, in verse 4, all the land of Canaanites, and here it is, that belongs to the Sidonianites. See, we see Tyre and Sidon today earlier, and to the border of the Amorites, saw that, and on the land of the Gibeonites in Lebanon towards the sunrise from Baal Gad under Mount Hermon to the entry of Hamath. And then as we continue to see here, all the inhabitants of the hill country, watch this, Lebanon, from Lebanon, and even all the way to Sidonians, I will drive them out from before the children of Israel, just allocated it to Israel for inheritance, as I have commanded you. Then verse 7, now therefore divide this land for inheritance to the what? No 10 tribes, 9 tribes, which are coming out of the south. And this is what we have told everybody. There's 9 tribes that comes under Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Okay? Which the 9 and 3 makes up 12. Because there was a lost 2 tribes, but one came back, which Manasseh through Joseph, and Dan, are Danites, which are basically sharing with Ben. So I explained all that before. But now as we see, now there's 4 divides this land for inheritance for the 9 tribes and the half tribe of Manasseh. So now we're seeing now how it comes now to an even 9 tribes. So now here it is. It goes to tell you when Halil fell, he fell, and then he took 1/3. But then once land and earth came into formation, and man and woman was able to be made and be fruitful throughout the land, here it is. It was therefore taken by the deceptions of the devil and those fallen. Mm-hmm. But now we've seen that this half tribe makes up this 9 tribes. So go to 1 Samuel. And this, here it is, as we sing, here it is, are all tyrant cities. Okay. So when we look up this keyword tyrant after a while, I want you to go to your dictionaries, because you're going to go to First Samuel. And then you're going to look at chapter 27. Then you're going to pay close attention to verse 4 through 7. Let my wife read it.
Okay. When Saul learned that David had fled to Gath, he no longer searched for him. David said to Archis, "If I meet with your approval, let me have a place to live in one of the country towns. Why should your servant live with you in the royal city?"
Mm-hmm.
That same day, Achis gave him Ziklag, which has therefore belonged to the kings of Judah up to the present time. In all, David lived a year and 4 months in Philistine territory.
In Philistine territory.
Yep.
I mean, you just can't make this up, right? It's right there in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So now here it is. These are all legendary men.
Yep.
Historical, okay, figures of the theologics of our Testament historical record book, giving us the saying that we have always been around those who had the tainted blood, who is Philistine, who had the plans to therefore make sure everyone be converted out of following Yahweh's laws, and therefore go and be independently in blemish. Because here it is, that's what happened to all those nations. They became blemished. Mm-hmm. And this is why Abraham was leaving. This is why Joseph called his parents out. Okay. And we know here it is, they came out of Canaan, near Philistia. Who are the Philistines or Palestine people of Lebanon? As you can see, Lebanon, Syria, Assyria. Okay. We done discussed, right? We have seen, and you have looked and read everyone in the book together to see that there was a tyrant cities. Now go to tyrant in your dictionary. Pull up that word right quick. Now, when we get and see this word, I want to say that it clearly says an absolute ruler, unrestrained. Mm-hmm. Ain't Trump like right now unrestrained? They so-called say, but not really, because us brothers and sisters here at IBI, we know the truth. Mm-hmm. We know what's going on with him and Benjamin and Netanyahu. We know the game. This is not no game to us. We know the game, but it's only a game to those who don't know the game, because they trying to play with the game instead of against the game. So now here it is. He says, unrestrained by law or what? Constitution. What nation have been under that underline? All nations that therefore are tied to wealth. And they make the decisions of the what? Humanity of the people. Mm-hmm. And this is why Yah says, come out of her everywhere, not just the United States. Because here it is. This is a ruler who exercises absolute power of excessively or brutally. Our people got beat, like Rodney King. Mm-hmm. Trayvon Martin got shot. Okay. Breonna Taylor. Okay. We got names, man. Not only just them, we can go back into the past of the South and pull names, right? Henry and many others, right? And Tinsdale. Okay. And here it is. We got many. So now we're knowing that Philistia is the one who did this. And it means that here it is, your NAWCP also was involved with Philistine. Because a lot of times when that stuff happened in the South, they really wasn't supporting as they really could have supported. Because here it is, if they was really educated, would have told the people who they truly was, You're not Africans. You're basically, here it is, lineage to Africa. You're Hebrews, Israelites. Yeah. Meaning you're tied to Africa. Tyrosite, and many other, and going on, northern ones into Nigeria and many others, right? So now here it is. Our people haven't been given the full truth about who is Philistine. Right. Now we see them here to show up in Goliath and Samson, because he was also around the Philistines, right? Yeah. Let's look at the example of what happened to Samson. Everybody, go to Judges. Go to Judges. Now these people kind of had like a little tan to them, so they were like a little, almost a little brownish, right? This is why we say the color doesn't matter really, but the understanding of knowing that before that, here it is, it mattered. Okay. After that, it doesn't matter. But it points you to the power of those who are working with powers that are from the world. This is what we're talking about. Power of riches of the world, not the power of the riches of Yahweh. Right. Okay? Right. Two different types of power. So now here is the tricks of Philistia in 16 chapter 1 through 5. Do you want to read it? Yeah. All right. And this is what happened to this brother Samson.
Once Samson went to Gaza, where he saw a prostitute and visited her. The people of Gaza were told Samson has come here, and they surrounded him with an ambush at the city gate all night long. And all the night they waited, saying, "At morning light we will kill him." Samson lay there until midnight. Then he rose at midnight, seized the doors of the city gates and the two gate posts, and tore them loose, bar and all. He hoisted them on his shoulders and carried them to the top of the ridge opposite Hebron. After that, he fell in love with a woman in the Wadi Sorek, whose name was Delilah. The lords of the Philistines came up to her and said, "Trick him and find out where he gets his great strength, and how we may overcome and bind him so as to make him helpless. Then for our part, we will each give him 1,100 pieces of silver."
You see this now? Now understand.
We will give you, I'm sorry.
We will give, yeah. Right. We will give you 11 pieces of silver. So now what we see here clearly with Samson, that this happens among our brothers and sisters who are not only just without melon, but only with those also with melon. We got this going on today, just as it was in the past, as it is in the present. But there won't be no place for it in the future, though.
Amen.
Amen. Because now here it is, we see that the devil had to basically plan something all the time against those who are in covenant or in righteousness to try to get them from being in covenant or in righteousness. To who? Yahweh. So the whole thing is about you not being conquered by the powers or the riches of this world, but coming out of Philistia, but understanding who Philistia really is first, and then later became, okay, as a mixture of different nations of a population of people, okay, with the same thinking mentality in heart as well, okay, in spirit. Because here it is, they are going in the same direction, different than the true Israelites, such as your brother Yazrael Yashambaya, and my wife Yazrael Yamaikai, and many of you brothers and sisters who are part of IDI subscribe is here with us. So now we think by seeing now this illustration of trickery on Samson, and we see that when she did this to Samson, we know that here it is that these nations was either allies at this time somewhere in parts, and also deadly enemies. Here it is in a lot of parts of Yahweh's people. as we can understand with Samson, Saul, and here it is also with David, because we just seen Samson illustration of basically Philistia coming in to trick him, to overtake him, and we read earlier they come to seize and travel, and it also to trade, right? So now we know what kind of people we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who are basically those who want money, who want the riches. They after that loot. So that means that can be a brother who's darker than me. That can be a brother as brown as me, and that can be a brother as light as me, and a brother white.
Yeah, it don't matter.
As not as me, right? So now here it is. Who is Philistia? It's kind of anyone that's chasing after the world and its riches is Philistia.
Right.
And that means here it is. These people, as you can see, they are basically vicious. This woman tricked Samson. Yeah. Philistines came to have their own cousin, brother, set up. Yeah. Okay? Just because he had a gift that they didn't have. Keep that in mind. That's covenants. Yeah. Right? That's breaking Exodus chapter 20. Read it on and on, right? So now let's look at some examples, because we see this also showed up with Samuel and Saul and also with David. So let's go to Judges chapter 13 to see that. Verse 1. Read that for me, Mike.
Okay. The Israelites again did what was evil in the sight of Yahuwah, who therefore delivered them into the power of the Philistines for 40 years.
For 40 years. Because they wouldn't obey. Because here it is. They were after the same things of what they seen their cousins after. When Yah told them, when you go into these lands, remember when we looked at Moses? Before you, Joshua, before you go into these lands, I must remove them so the weak don't copy their ways, because he knew it was some weak ones still in there following with Joshua after they'd already killed off 3,000 of them before Moses even died, and Aaron, right? So now we're back at square one again. So here it is. We're seeing clearly the children of Israel again did that. Watch this. They again returned to doing evil, not following or obeying the Bible, not listening to the messengers or the prophets like Daniel, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Nehemiah, okay? And on and on. So he says, and Yahweh delivered them into the hands of who? Philistines. Those who therefore have enough power to subdue you. Because it is, they're going to be the head and you're going to be the tail all the time. They're going to be the one giving out and you're the one with your hand out to receive. Because you don't own nothing. You have no independence. Then we start out talking about that. Because now we see Gaza only got consumed by its own power, which is Israel, who are Philistines. Undercover. So here it is. We see a collision, right? Now look at first Samuel. Let's go to 1 Samuel. And when Father brought this to me, I took notes, because here it is. He said, when we give this is going to allow brothers and sisters to see you've been blaming one nation for too long, right? So now here it is, 1 Samuel chapter 4, 1 through 3. We're going to see that here it is, Philistia has been all around you in many colors. Because now when we get here, my wife is going to read 1, 2, 3.
Okay. At that time, the Philistines gathered for an attack on Israel.
1, 2, 3?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Pick it up again from line 1.
Okay. At that time, the Philistines gathered for an attack on Israel. Israel went out to engage them in battle and camped at Ebenezer. While the Philistines camped at Aphek, the Philistines
put themselves
then drew up in battle formation against Israel. After a fierce struggle, Israel was defeated by the Philistines, who killed about 4,000 men on the battlefield. When the troops retired to the camp, the elders of Israel said, "Why has the Almighty forbidden us to be why has he forbidden us to be defeated today by the Philistines? Why is he permitted?" I'm sorry, I said the wrong word. Okay. Why has the Almighty permitted us to be defeated today by the Philistines? Let us fetch the ark of the Almighty from Shiloh, that it may go into battle among us and save us from the grasp of our enemies.
There you go. So now, from the grasp of our enemies. So this is why I say, around that time, things were rocky. Either they were allies or they were enemies. Some and all, you know what I'm saying? Different people was clustered up together differently. So now here it is, same as we see today. So now clearly it said about 4,000 men, he says. He says Israel was defeated by the Philistines, who killed about 4,000 men. When the people had come into the camp, the elders of Israel said, "Why has Yahweh defeated us?" See, they didn't say Philistine defeated us. They said Yahweh defeated us. That shows that they had acknowledgement of their transgressions, of their iniquities, because Yah doesn't punish you unless you do something wrong.
Correct.
So now that's clearly that he used Philistine to do those punishings on those who therefore are meant to be in the right. Because he says, "Why have Yahweh defeated us today before the Philistines? Let's get the ark of Yahweh's covenant." And then here it is, "and bring it back to us, that we may come among us, that he may come among us and save us out of the hands of our enemies." Now, look at chapter of Samuel, chapter 13. Watch this. Here's another example. And when you see it in 1 Samuel chapter 13, look at verse 3, everyone, verse 4. Because here it is, Jonathan struck the garrison of the Philistines, and here it is, that was in Geba, and the Philistines heard of it. Saul blew the trumpet throughout all the land, watch this, saying, "Let the" what? Hebrews, which is tied back to the lineage of Africa. See how this showed you? It showed a color in people in clusters at this time as it is in today. So now he says, all Israel heard that Saul had struck the garrisons of the Philistines, and also that Israel, watch this, considered an abomination to the Philistines. The people were gathered together after Saul. So now here it is. We see that many brothers and sisters had lost their way, because here it is, a Philistine, of their presence, of their traditions. This is what you must concentrate on, brothers and sisters, because here it is showing us why we're getting to the point we are in right now, to the end of a generation soon. Because here it is, everyone wants to know trials and tribulations and wants to know when is the end. So now here it is, you must start with the time of the Gentiles, which is right now, which is brewing against Israel right now, 10 nations right now against her, which is all from Islamic nations right now. So now realize, you already, Babylon unfallen. This is why you see mostly everyone here is from a different land and came over here and bought land, okay? And then therefore jacked everything sky high on you, right? You can't just make this up, because here it is what we're talking about today. Who is Philistine? Because here it is, it's going to now show you your enemy have multiple colors now, okay? And now here it is, and let's go to Samuel chapter 17 and look at verse 17 through 19. Watch this, because here it is clearly. Jesse said to David, his son. Now take for your brothers an ephah of this grain in these 10 loaves and carry them quickly to the camp to your brothers. Watch this. And bring these 10 cheeses, here it is, to the captains of their thousands, and see how your brothers are doing, and bring back news. Now Saul and they and all the men of Israelites were in the valley of Elah, fighting with who? Philistines, Islamics, right there. So now you see Lebanon and all. This is the time of the Gentiles. This is what's been decreed through Yeshua. He says, wait for the time of the Gentile. When that is over and decreed, he tells you what will happen, right? So now when we see here, look at verses, continue in verse 21 and 23. Skip over verse 20. Stay in the same chapter of 1 Samuel 17 and scoot down to verse 21 and 23. 21 to 23 of 1 Samuel chapter 17. Israel and the Philistines, watch this, put the battle in array. See that? When Philistine went to war with Israel, that started that pre-war that leads to the trial and tribulations, and then therefore leads to the peace accord of Abraham Accord that happened, and then also the international peace covenant that is also coming pretty soon. So now, when we look here, he says, Israel and Philistines put the battle in array against all armies, right? David left his baggage in the hand of the keeper of the baggage and ran to the army and came and greeted his brothers. Verse 23, as he talked with them, behold, watch this, he says, the champion, the Philistine of who? Gath, which is around the Euphrates River, Ekron. And then he says, Goliath by name came up out of the ranks of who? The Philistines. Yeah. David was fighting the Philistines out of Gath, because here it is, we lost a tribe, a nation. Now we got 9, right? Yeah. Did y'all forget that or forget to make note of that, everyone? He says, the ranks of the Philistines, and said to the same words, and David heard them. So now here it is. You know, this is called a relation. This is how you identify your brothers and your sisters. This is basically showing you who had power and who didn't before David had power over the kingdom of Israel. Okay? This is why the north and the south got split. With all this friction between these other lost tribes that was still trying to figure themselves out and come back together. Because here it is, Judah was already secure in the northern parts. We know that. Because here it is, they had to come down from the north to help their brother in Cuther out in the south, which is out of Jesse of David. We just seen that right there. Okay. So now it clearly allowed us for more than 200 years, Philistia harassed the Israelites, brothers and sisters, until David and Samuel defeated Philistia. Okay. And now we go to 1 Samuel to see this evidence, right? Because it's coming again for the future of Philistia, who done formed a coalition with many nations, who will have to be defeated by who? Yahweh. He says, I defeat these Gentiles. Yeah. Okay. And I deal with the heathen. Now, Gentile and a heathen is 2 different people. Write that down. Gentiles / heathen. Look up each word and you will find out we're talking about 2 different people. Okay. So now when we look here in 1 Samuel chapter 7, look at verses 12 through 14. Because now we see David and Samuel defeated Philistia. Because here it is. Yah says there's a time for everything, right? And so now here it is. He says, then Samuel took a stone, set it in between Mizpah, and called his name Ebenezer, saying, Yahweh helped us until now. See that? He didn't say God. He didn't say Jesus. He says Yahweh helped us until now. In many of y'all books, it might have Lord, God, and Jesus. So now he says, so the Philistines were subdued and they stopped coming within the border of Israel. Yahweh's hand was against the Philistines all the days of Samuel. Now understand in verse 14, the cities which the Philistines had taken from Israel were restored to Israel. See this? From Ekron, then we talk about that, right? Even to Gath, we talked about that. And Israel recovered its borders out of the hands of Philistines. There was peace between Israel and of the Amorites. So now you know the Amorites is part of Philistine or Palestines, because here it is. They all so-called call themselves different things when we are all Israelites. See how the confusion started? Mm-hmm. So now here it is. Here it is. Bring you back to realize that what we're talking about here, why this message is so important, is for you, brothers and sisters, who are basically now being rediscovered, rewoken up, and coming in fat, faithful, available, and teachable. You're now being given back your right to be citizens of a kingdom that is prepared to you and for you by Yahweh. Because now you can see your ancestors bringing us up into a present time of covenantry, because here it is, it's not like the covenant that Yahuwah made with our ancestors. It's totally different. That means our eyes and our heart got to be on a different page than the page that our ancestors left off on. Because we can take that history, but here it is, we must move forward. And the only way you can do that is through the power and the blessing of Yahweh. Yeah. So now when we get here, we see in verse 13, he says, so the Philistines were subdued and they stopped coming. Boom. Verse 14, the cities which the Philistines had taken from Israel was restored to Israel, from Ekron even to Gath, and Israel recovered its borders out of the hands of the Philistines. There was peace between Israel and the Amorites. Now, stroll to 2 Samuel. Now, we were just in 1 Samuel. Go to 2 Samuel. Watch this. Because when Father showed me this stood out. Because here it is, a lot enhanced on this right here. Because he says, 2 Samuel chapter 5, verse 22, he clearly says here, the Philistines came up yet again and spreaded themselves in the valley. See this? Rahem. When David inquired of Yahweh, watch this. When David inquired of Yahweh, not the Philistines, not Philistia, they was inquiring of the Asherahs and goddesses and statues and pictures of their own cousins and people. And they worship as gods. But here it says, when David inquired of Yahweh, he said, you shall not go up, circle around behind them, attack them in front of the mulberry tree. When you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the mulberry tree, that means the wind moving, then stir yourselves up, for then Yahweh has gone out before you to strike who? The army of Philistines. Mm-hmm. Those who are in power. I mean, also part of Roman. Mm-hmm. Philistia, Philistines. All right. Mm-hmm. We done walked through this earlier. So for all brothers and sisters just tuning in, you're going to have to rewind this lesson. So now realize he says clearly, strike the army of Philistia or Philistines. Verse 24. Verse 25. David what? Did so, as Yahweh commanded him, and struck the Philistines all the way from Geba to Gezer. Mm-hmm. So now here it is. We see Gaza and the Gezerites. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now we see why Israel have destroyed Gaza. Okay, completely obliterated, right? Damascus completely destroyed. Tel Aviv being ravaged right now, right? Mm-hmm. So now we're seeing now, Yah says, keep your eyes on the power, because when the time of the Gentiles come, this is going to let you know how close you are getting to the anti-Yahweh appearing in the flesh. Because now here it is, the world will be completely out of his mind by this time. Civil arrest will have to happen. Yeah. because of the causing of the wars of Israel. Here it is with Lebanon and Turks and all of these other nations building up on the borders with Russia and so on and so on, siding one piece. Everybody wants some of Israel to wipe it off as a nation because of all of what it have done. It have lied, it has cheated, it has robbed, it has stolen, it has killed, it has misplaced. Okay, it has did so many evils where therefore it is a mixed abomination on that land. They have trampled it underfoot, Father says, right? So now what we see here, David did so as Yahweh commanded him. Now the Old Testament revealed to us that the Philistines worship 3 evil deities. And they are, here it is, doing this today. Because we see clearly, brothers and sisters, we must go to Judges. Took my notes, good. Yeah. When you get to Judges, read chapter 16 and look at verse 23 through 26. I want you to read that. And this is why America has fallen. This is why all of her counterparts are falling. This is why everything is basically going out of control. Why? Because here it is. Many of these nations that already took up their power. Because here it is, Babylon are already fallen. People just don't see the smoke.
And then you said Judges what?
That'd be Judges chapter 16. Wait. Yeah, Judges chapter 16, 23 to 26.
Okay.
Go ahead. Loud, please. Thank you. Yeah, but no. Wow.
The lords of the Philistines assembled to offer a great sacrifice to their god Dagon, and to celebrate, they said, "Our God has delivered Samson, our enemy, into our power." When the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, "Our God has delivered into our power our enemy, the ravager of our land, the one who has multiplied our slain." When their spirits were high, they said, "Call Samson that he may amuse us." So they called Samson from the prison, and he provided amusement for them. They made him stand between the columns. And Samson said to the attendant who was holding his hand, "Put me where I may touch the columns that support the temple, so that I may lean against them." The temple was full of men and women.
That's it. All right. So now, that they may lean on them, that he may lean on them. Because we know in the movie, Samson put his hand through the pillars and he killed all the Philistines, right? Because he asked Yah to give him that one power. And here it is to make sure that here it is, he'll never, actually, he was asking for mercy. And for actually telling the lie about that secret. To therefore cut his hair, right? Knowing that if you cut your hair, that you lose your power or the gift that Father has given you. Right. So now we see this has been by the craftiness of Philistine, by a working of demonic practices that is a spiritual working. Because here it is, their God was who? Dagon. So here it is, Moloch and all these other reptilians and so on and so on, right? So everyone have heard that and understand that here it is. This is going to that time because here it is. This is when those Nephilims and all of these other things have popped up. And we know the stories of that. But now we are seeing that Philistia worship evil spirits. And this was where Abraham was, Isaac was around, and many of Moses and the Israelite brothers and sisters knew of these people. They done came in contact with them, knowing that they had a mind of their own outside of the law or the Torah, which was basically following the law of Yahuwah. Now, 1 Samuel, let's go to 1 Samuel again. Go to verse 31. Look at verse 10 through 12. Verse 10 through 12.
31, 10 through 12.
Read that for me.
David continued.
Verse 31, 1 Samuel.
You said 31. Okay, got it. Chapter 31.
Verse 10.
10. They put his armor in the temple of Ashtoreth, but
Ashtaroth. Okay, that's from my book.
Okay. But impaled his body on the wall of Bethshan. When the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead heard what the Philistines had done to Saul, all their warriors set out and traveled through the night. They removed the bodies of Saul and his sons from the wall of Bethshan, and returning to Jabesh, burned them.
They burned them. You see that? So here it is. Samuel went out, and he says here that when the inhabitants heard what the Philistines had done, see that? So these people had constantly been empowered.
Yeah.
Okay? From a lineage of the worldly wealth, not from Yahweh's wealth. From the robbery of the worldly wealth, not from the giving of Yahweh's mercy wealth. Okay? Here it is. They was robbing and stealing like pirates. And as they doing today. Robbing and stealing as pirates. And they come in all colors. Right? And here it is. And their main objective is to make sure you are not reading the Bible. Making sure you are walking around just on your phone all day, right? Make sure you got earphones on, but it ain't the music of a podcast of education of Yahweh, but it's the education of the world. It's a different people. So now here it is. Go to 2 Kings. Watch this. You just can't make this up. Chapter 1, 2 Kings, 2 through 3. Ahazah, this is with Ahazah. Go ahead.
Elijah said to Elisha, stay here, please. The Almighty has sent me on to Bethel. Elisha replied, as the Almighty lives, and as you yourselves live, I will not leave you. So they went down to Bethel.
Okay, keep going.
The guild prophets who
you were reading chapter 1, what?
You said
2 Kings chapter 1.
And then chapter 1.
No, you're not. This is chapter 1 over here. You're in 1 Kings, so you go back.
This is 2
Kings? Chapter 1. That's what you want. That's where you want to be at. Verse 2 and 3.
Ahijah fell through the lattice of his roof terrace at Samaria and was injured. So he sent out messengers with the instruction, go and inquire at Beelzebub, the god of Ekron, whether I shall recover from this injury. Meanwhile, the messenger of the Almighty said to Elijah the Tishbite, go and meet the messengers of Samaria's king and tell them, is it because there is no God in Israel that you are going to inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron?
So now here it is. We now going back into Canaan, seeing that Philistines, Palestines are all the same people, just calling themselves different nicknames, same as the so-called African Americans, who are basically only Israelites, because you can't be from two continents. Okay. So now here it is. We don't prove that our ancestors, our mothers' ancestors were brought here, and here it is. Their ancestors worked the cotton fields, sugar fields, mine fields, and so on and so on, down to give us offsprings to the last generations. This is what we're talking about. Philistia is now working on the offsprings. Remember the woman, the dragon came after the children? So here it is. We're looking at and seeing the cross-referencing of understanding that Philistia have always been that superpower working underneath, making itself look like it ain't being seen, But here it is. We know that all the money, all things come from the government systems, the UN and many other societies. And therefore, it's trickled down to the inhabitants of the people, just like it was with kings and castles back in the day. So now what we see here, 2 and 3, but Yahweh's angel said to Elijah, arise, go up to meet the messengers of the kings of Samaria. And then he says, and tell them, is it because there is no Yahuwah in Israel? Because at this time, we know the travel on what we just seen, that they were moving all around, going to different locations. And here it is, coming among people who wasn't in covenant. So now, brothers and sisters, as we have come to a close for tonight, this has given us a little bit of clarity to understand who Philistia is and why Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu is not allowing brothers and sisters to understand the difference is that they want to put you in a religion different than the religion you're supposed to be in. They want to hide who is who, so therefore you can stay confused. And therefore not tell you about a one-world religion that's coming upon the whole world, because it is, they want you to be scared. Right. And when you don't have power of Yah in you, then therefore you will be shaken. You will lose your mind, like Deuteronomy says. You will be out of your mind. You will be confused. Yeah. Your children will be taken. Many things will happen because it is, you are not on the covenant. You are not preparing yourself ahead of time for what is coming and what has already come. Because now here it is, who is Philistia? We're seeing this is all about the time of the Gentiles. And the time of the Gentiles are right now. Yeah. This is why so many people are agitated over money, finances, and so on, other things. But here it is, when you look at all of these things, when they wear out, they are all about thinking of the world. No one is thinking about, oh man, I need to really, get saved. I need to really get saved. Not like playing saved. I mean, get saved, because you got to come out of her. That means come out of her church thinking, her church system, and her church oppressions. Because here it is. Every time you look at a cross or a man or hanging from a cross, you're throwing yourself right into the deception all over again if you're not strong and knowing who is Philistia. Because now you're realizing Philistia is a mixed nation now of 9 nations. Yeah. And here it is. They're all coming back confused. But here it is. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi is the ones that help all the brothers of those 9 tribes and sisters stay on course as a beacon of strength, steadfast. That's why the 3 is there. Yeah. And 9 means just being complete. So now here it is. This is where we at, everyone. So until next time here at IVI, we send all our shaloms. May all our brothers and sisters around the world continue in your faith. Make sure that therefore you keep Yahweh first, knowing that here it is, he is the guidance behind everything that is being done in the world. Nothing can be done unless it's through him first. But here it is, he drops us off into Yahweh's love, compassion, to knowing that here it is, the day is coming for everyone. And here it is, you must be prepared to stand on your own 2 feet and therefore be held accountable for the deeds that you have done. And amen. And here it is, he says, for all the information that you receive and you get down, now you will look at a system not in a racial way, but you will now look at it in a way of appreciating the information, because now you are seeing how a nation of people started from being a curse of no melon and being kicked out of the camp, and then therefore separated because here it is, they didn't want to obey a command of Yahweh at the tower. And here it is, we see, and then from there, the scattered went into all of the lands. And when they went into all of the lands, here it is, we come up to now where we are at now, us, the offspring, our mothers and dads done got older. We are the offspring that of Abraham that was talked about, future descendants, being a land not your own, Deuteronomy, right? 28:43. And we can look at many other chapters but it allows us to see that our people must come forth and be accounted for. Don't be afraid to learn, because here it is. This is the whole thing of why Philistia have been empowered for so many centuries. Yeah. And here it is. We have seen it being done before BCE, before Common Era. So here it is. This goes back a very long ways, right? Yeah. So now understanding everybody, brothers and sisters, we thank y'all for tuning in with me and my wife, Yasrael Yamaikaya, allowing us to be a blessing to your household and you to be a blessing to us as brothers and sisters. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and make sure you inform brothers and sisters of our channel. Thank you and shalom.
Shalom.